Welcome to the deep dive. We've got some really cool stuff about the Mrigashira Nakshatra to explore today.
Yeah, it's amazing how one nakshatra can touch on so many aspects of life, family, relationships, even that search for something more, something eternal.
We'll be diving into all that today, using Vedic astrology to understand Mrigashira's symbolism and its impact on people born under its influence.
It's a journey of searching, exploration, and transformation, all wrapped up in this one nakshatra.
So where does this Mrigashira Nakshatra actually fall in the sky, and what are some of its key symbols?
Well, Mrigashira actually spans two constellations, Taurus and Gemini, and its main symbol is a deer's head.
A deer's head, huh?
Yeah.
That makes me think of searching and exploring new territories,
Yeah.
constantly on the lookout for something.
Exactly. That's a big part of Mrigashira's energy. And speaking of searching, we can't forget about Soma, the moon god, who's deeply connected to this nakshatra.
Oh, right, Soma. Can you tell us more about that link? I'm curious.
Sure. Soma is actually Mrigashira's ruling deity. And he's a really fascinating figure because he embodies this duality, you see.
Duality. Go on, I'm listening.
On one hand, Soma represents the life-giving waters of the earth,
Yeah.
nourishing and sustaining us.
Okay, that makes sense.
But on the other hand, he's also the intoxicating drink of the gods,
Hmm?
the one that brings ecstasy and can sometimes lead to, let's just say, interesting consequences.
Wow, that's a powerful image. So we've got this tension within Mrigashira between earthly desires and this yearning for something more, almost a push and pull between pleasure and a deeper search.
Exactly. And we see that tension playing out in many stories associated with Mrigashira. The deer, for instance, often appears in tales of curses and unexpected outcomes.
Now that you mention stories, I noticed that several myths linked to Mrigashira involve deer and curses. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. Several major events in Hindu mythology involve deer playing a crucial role. For example, there's the story of Brahma's curse, which is linked to a deer, and even the death of Krishna is associated with the deer.
It's fascinating how these stories connect back to Mrigashira's themes of searching and transformation.
Right. It's like this nakshatra marks those moments of profound change in life, often brought about by unforeseen circumstances.
It's as if Mrigashira is prompting us to look beyond the surface, go deeper, and embrace the transformative power of experiences, wouldn't you say?
Exactly. And that brings us to another important connection. Mrigashira's association with Lord Shiva, specifically his consort, Parvati. Mrigashira is said to be her birth star.
Now, Parvati is known for her intense tapas, that unwavering focus on uniting with Shiva. Does this suggest Mrigashira is about pushing past those earthly desires, reaching for a higher state of being?
And you got it. Mrigashira encourages that search for something more enduring, something beyond the fleeting pleasures of the world. And this ties back to Soma and the idea of immortality.
Immortality, huh? Now things are getting really interesting. How does that concept fit in with Mrigashira's energy?
Well, think about Soma. His waxing and waning represent those cycles of life and death. Those born under Mrigashira might seek immortality in different ways.
I'm listening.
Maybe through leaving a legacy, their creative works, or even their pursuit of enlightenment. It's about that longing for something that lasts.
I see what you mean. It's like it's all connected. That searching, that yearning for something more, that desire for something that endures. It's as if Mrigashira guides us on a quest for meaning that goes beyond the superficial.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Now, we've talked about the myths and symbols, but let's get down to brass tacks. What kind of talents might someone with a strong Mrigashira placement have? What are they good at?
Yeah, let's get practical.
Well, they might be naturally drawn to healing, working with herbs and such.
Interesting.
They could also excel at uncovering secrets, research, organizing information. Think of like a detective or researcher who brings those hidden truths to light.
Wow. It's like they have a built-in detective kit, always searching for clues and answers.
Right. But, of course, like any nakshatra, Mrigashira has its challenges too.
Oh, I was just about to ask, are there any potential downsides to these placements?
Yeah, some people with strong Mrigashira placements might struggle with relationships, especially with in-laws, actually.
Really? In-laws specifically?
Yeah, and they may even face some karmic challenges related to snakes. It's a bit of a tricky one.
Snakes, huh? Well, that definitely adds another layer to the story. So it sounds like they really need to be mindful of their actions, knowing their choices have long-lasting consequences.
Absolutely. They also need to be aware of their ego and try to avoid getting stuck in power struggles or conflicts.
It's like this intriguing mix of curiosity, thirst for knowledge, and the potential for both huge successes and some intense challenges. It seems like Mrigashira is all about embracing change and navigating the complexities of life, wouldn't you say?
You got it. And it makes you think about how these themes show up in real life.
Yeah, I love seeing how these concepts play out in the lives of real people. Who do you have in mind?
Well, one person who had a prominent Jupiter placement in Mrigashira was this tycoon, known for his extravagant lifestyle, but unfortunately, eventually, his legal troubles.
Wait, are you talking about that famous beer tycoon? The one who lived so lavishly but ended up facing serious consequences?
Yeah, that's the one. It's almost like a
That
cautionary tale.
Right. It's a reminder that while Mrigashira can bring success and abundance, there's a need for balance and responsibility, too.
Exactly. And to contrast that, there's an example from the world of space exploration. The chairman of the Indian Space Research Organization, during this pivotal mission to the moon, had Mars in Mrigashira.
Wow. That's pretty fitting, given Mrigashira's themes of exploration and pushing those boundaries.
I know, right? And to make it even more interesting, Saturn was aspecting his Mars during this mission, highlighting the challenges and perseverance involved.
So it's not just about having these placements, but how they work together with other planetary energies and how individuals choose to use them.
Exactly. Astrology is complex, like a giant tapestry, and everyone's chart is unique.
That's for sure. But these examples show us how Mrigashira's energy can manifest in so many ways, influencing personal lives and even global events.
It's really amazing.
Now, before we move on to Mrigashira's influence on specific areas of life, is there anything else about its overall energy we should know?
One key takeaway is that Mrigashira is about seeking something more. And this desire can show up in different ways.
I see.
Sometimes it's searching for knowledge, sometimes spiritual connection, sometimes it's about uncovering hidden truths.
So those with strong Mrigashira placements might be drawn to careers or activities where they can explore, discover, or bring things to light, huh?
Precisely. They might be great as researchers, healers, detectives, even those who expose corruption or hidden things in society.
It's like they have this drive to illuminate the world around them, to shine a light on the unknown.
That's a great way to put it. And it connects back to Lord Shiva, representing both destruction and transformation. Remember Parvati's unwavering devotion to Shiva?
I do, yeah.
That same intensity can be found in many people with strong Mrigashira placements. They have this inner strength to overcome obstacles.
Like they're not afraid to face the darkness, to delve into the depths of their own being and come out transformed.
Exactly. And that's key to understanding Mrigashira. It's not just about the seeking, it's about the transformations along the way.
It's about facing challenges head-on and using those experiences to evolve.
Exactly.
And how does Soma, the moon god, fit into all this?
Well, remember his dual nature. It's all about finding that balance. Soma represents both the life-giving waters and the intoxicating elixir. Those with strong Mrigashira placements need to learn to navigate between those two forces.
I see. So it's about embracing earthly pleasures without getting lost in them, seeking spiritual fulfillment without denying their human needs?
Exactly. It's a constant dance between those two poles, trying to find that sweet spot where they can experience both the joys and the depths of life.
That's a great way to put it. Mrigashira is a nakshatra that encompasses the full spectrum of human experience.
It really does.
We've covered a lot of ground here. Is there anything else we should know about Mrigashira before we move on to its influence on specific areas of life?
There is one more point. The concept of legacy. Mrigashira is associated with immortality, but it's also about creating something that outlives you, whether it's knowledge, creative work, or a positive influence on others.
That's a beautiful thought. It's not just about personal growth and transformation. It's about contributing something valuable to the world, leaving a mark that endures.
Precisely. It's a reminder that we have the power to create something meaningful with our lives.
Now, with that inspiring thought in mind, let's shift our focus to relationships and see how Mrigashira's energy plays out in the realm of love, marriage, and family dynamics.
Sounds good. It will be really interesting to see how this nakshatra's intensity and desire for something more show up in relationships.
Definitely. Well, as we've established, Mrigashira is ruled by Soma, the moon god, who embodies both the nurturing and intoxicating aspects of relationships.
That duality is going to create some interesting dynamics for sure.
It definitely does. And for those with strong Mrigashira placements, it can lead to a deep longing for connection, a desire to merge with another soul on a deep level.
They're not looking for something superficial. They want something transformative, something that really shakes them up.
You got it. They crave love that helps them evolve, discover new sides of themselves. But this intensity can be a double-edged sword, right?
You're right.
How so?
Well, sometimes they can be prone to possessiveness, jealousy, even losing themselves in the relationship.
It's like their natural intensity gets amplified when it comes to love, almost like that intoxicating elixir side of Soma taking over, huh?
Exactly. That's something they need to be mindful of. It's about finding that balance between giving into the passion and maintaining a healthy sense of self within the relationship,
So, open communication and healthy boundaries are even more important for Mrigashira folks when it comes to love.
for sure. And they also need to be aware of another challenge that often pops up, those karmic entanglements.
Oh, right. We talked about snakes and curses earlier. How does that karmic stuff show up in their love life?
Sometimes people with Mrigashira placements are drawn to partners who trigger those past life wounds or unresolved karmic patterns.
So, it's not just about finding the one, it's about working through those deeper issues, too.
Exactly. These relationships can be intense, even tumultuous, but they offer a powerful opportunity for healing and growth.
It's like they're meant to face those karmic challenges head on, and through that process, they find a deeper understanding of themselves and their relationship patterns.
You got it. And it's important to remember, these relationships aren't necessarily doomed. They can be incredibly transformative if both partners are willing to do the work and face those challenges together.
So there's potential for great love and healing, but it might require navigating some rough waters.
That's a good way to put it. And let's not forget, Mrigashira is also linked to the concept of soulmates and twin flames.
Oh, wow. Now we're getting into deep spiritual territory.
We are. It suggests that these people might have a strong sense of destiny when it comes to love. Like they're searching for that one soul that truly completes them.
I can imagine that search for a soulmate can be exciting and frustrating, especially with the potential for those karmic entanglements we talked about.
It's true. But every relationship, karmic or soulmate, offers an opportunity to learn and grow. And for those with prominent Mrigashira placements, that journey of self-discovery through relationships is often a central theme in their lives.
Love is never boring for those with Mrigashira placements, that's for sure. Now let's talk about marriage. What insights does Mrigashira offer about this institution?
Well, you won't be surprised to hear, given its association with transformation, that Mrigashira can bring some unconventional approaches to marriage.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What do you mean by unconventional?
For some people with Mrigashira placements, marriage might not be a priority. They might focus on personal growth or spiritual pursuits, or they might delay marriage until later in life.
It sounds like they're not bound by those traditional expectations when it comes to love and relationships. They forge their own path.
Exactly. And for those who do choose to marry, they often approach it with a sense of adventure. They want to learn and grow together. They're not looking for a stagnant partnership.
So they want a dynamic marriage, something that keeps them on their toes.
Precisely.
Mm.
And that's where things can get interesting. Mrigashira marriages can be filled with passion, intellectual stimulation, and a desire to explore new things together. But this energy can also create challenges, especially if the couple isn't on the same page.
Right, so just like in any relationship, open communication and a willingness to compromise are key, but maybe even more so for Mrigashira folks.
Absolutely. And it's also important to remember that Mrigashira is deeply connected to the divine feminine energy.
Interesting. How does that play out in marriage?
Well, in these marriages, there's often a strong emphasis on the feminine principle. This could mean the wife might play a more prominent role, or the couple might prioritize nurturing, creativity, and intuition in their partnership.
That's a beautiful aspect of this nakshatra's energy. It's about honoring the feminine in all its forms.
Exactly. And that doesn't mean the masculine energy is absent, of course. It's about finding a harmonious balance between the two.
Okay, we've talked about love and marriage. Now let's move on to family. What does Mrigashira have to say about those dynamics?
This is where things can get a little more complex. Remember we talked about how Mrigashira natives sometimes face karmic challenges, particularly with in-laws?
Oh yeah, those in-law issues seem to pop up quite a bit.
It's true. And it's often rooted in those past life patterns or unresolved family karma. It doesn't mean every Mrigashira native will have difficult relationships with their in-laws, but it's definitely something to be aware of.
So what are some common patterns that might arise in these family dynamics?
You might see power struggles, misunderstandings, or even feeling unsupported by the extended family. This can create tension, especially if no one is willing to communicate openly or work through the challenges.
It sounds like setting healthy boundaries and prioritizing your own well-being are crucial in those situations.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And it's also important to remember that even with those challenges, there's always a potential for healing and growth. Mrigashira natives can be catalysts for change within their families.
Oh, interesting. So they might be the ones who shake things up a bit, encouraging their families to evolve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They might challenge traditional beliefs, bring new perspectives, or simply encourage their family to be more authentic and vulnerable. Their presence can be a powerful force for transformation within the family.
It's a good reminder that even those karmic challenges can lead to positive change.
Definitely. And remember, family dynamics are complex no matter your astrological placements. But understanding Mrigashira's energy can give those with strong placements valuable insights and help them navigate things with more awareness and compassion.
Mrigashira's influence on relationships can be a real roller coaster. From passionate love to karmic entanglements and unique family dynamics, there's never a dull moment, it seems. But through those challenges, there's also the potential for deep connection, healing, and transformation.
You said it. It's a journey that requires courage, vulnerability, and a willingness to embrace both the light and shadow sides of love and family.
Absolutely. Now let's move beyond relationships and see how Mrigashira influences other areas of life, starting with work and career.
Okay, sounds good.
Are you ready to explore the career paths and professional talents of those with Mrigashira placements?
I am. I'm curious to hear how this nakshatra's energy shows up in the professional world.
Well, as you might expect, given Mrigashira's connection to searching, exploration, and uncovering truth, these folks often excel in fields that let them use those skills.
So we're talking about careers that involve research, investigation, maybe even a bit of detective work.
Exactly. Think scientists, journalists, detectives, archaeologists, those driven to uncover information and make sense of complex data.
I can definitely see Mrigashira's influence there.
Hmm.
It's all about digging deep, asking questions, piecing together that puzzle.
You got it. And it's not just about finding information, it's also about sharing it, communicating those findings in a way that's clear and engaging. They often have a real talent for storytelling.
So they might be drawn to writing, teaching, public speaking.
Absolutely. And their natural curiosity and desire to learn makes them lifelong students. They're always looking to expand their knowledge, making them perfect for careers that involve continuous learning and growth.
It sounds like they thrive in environments that challenge them intellectually and allow them to make a real contribution to their chosen field.
Exactly. And don't forget, Mrigashira is also associated with healing.
Right. Almost forgot about that aspect.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about detectives and scientists, but healers as well.
Exactly. They might be drawn to traditional medicine, alternative healing, or even psychology. They have a natural empathy and a deep understanding of people, allowing them to connect on a really profound level.
So we're talking doctors, nurses, therapists, energy healers, herbalists, those who work to ease suffering and promote well-being.
You got it. And their intuition and ability to see hidden patterns can make them really gifted healers.
It's amazing how many different career paths align with Mrigashira's energy.
It really is. And remember, this is just a general overview. The best career for someone will always depend on their individual birth chart, passions, and experiences.
Of course, it's about finding that unique combination of your astrological blueprint and your personal dreams.
Right. But it sounds like those with prominent Mrigashira placements have what it takes to excel in a lot of different fields that involve exploring, healing, communicating, and a desire to make a positive impact.
You've summed it up perfectly. And speaking of making an impact, there's another path that often resonates with Mrigashira natives: entrepreneurship.
Really? Entrepreneurship? I wouldn't have guessed that.
It might seem surprising, but when you think about Mrigashira's connection to innovation, transformation, and risk-taking, it makes perfect sense.
Okay, yeah, I can see how those qualities would be essential for an entrepreneur.
Exactly. Mrigashira folks often have that visionary mindset, that strong sense of purpose. They aren't afraid to challenge the way things are and create something completely new.
So they're the ones who are pushing boundaries, disrupting industries.
Precisely. And their natural curiosity and willingness to experiment makes them really good at problem solving and adapting to change, which are crucial for any successful entrepreneur.
Sounds like Mrigashira natives could be a real game changers in the business world.
You got it. They might start their own companies, create innovative products or services, or simply find new ways to solve old problems. They're driven to make a difference.
Now let's shift gears and talk about money. Does Mrigashira have any influence on financial matters?
That's a great question. Remember, Mrigashira falls partly in the second house of the natural zodiac, which is associated with wealth and possessions.
Okay, so there is a connection to finances, but what does that actually mean for someone with a strong Mrigashira placement?
It suggests that these individuals can be financially successful, but money might not be their top priority.
So they're not necessarily driven by material wealth.
Right. Their focus might be on pursuing their passions, making a difference, or just living life to the fullest. But that doesn't mean they can't be financially abundant.
How do they usually approach money then?
People with Mrigashira placements often have an unconventional approach to finances. They might be drawn to alternative forms of income, invest in unique things, or simply prioritize experiences over material possessions.
It sounds like they need to balance their adventurous spirit with a practical approach to managing money.
Exactly. And their financial success might come from unexpected sources or through those unusual means. They might find success in fields that aren't traditionally associated with wealth, or they might just stumble upon a lucky break.
So Mrigashira folks have a unique relationship with money. It's not their main driver, but they have the potential for abundance if they can align their passions with their financial goals.
Exactly. And their financial journey, just like other parts of their lives, will probably be full of twists and turns.
That sounds about right, given everything we've learned about Mrigashira so far.
It does, doesn't it? It's a nakshatra of seeking, transforming, and ultimately leaving a lasting legacy on the world.
Well, we've covered so much about Mrigashira already. Its symbolism, the deities, its influence on relationships and career paths, even some real-life examples.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
But there's always more to uncover. I'm thinking about some of the more, esoteric or spiritual aspects of this nakshatra.
Right. It's not just the practical stuff.
We've talked about Soma and Shiva, but I'm wondering if there are other deities or spiritual ideas that are linked to Mrigashira.
There are definitely some fascinating connections that can really add to our understanding.
I'm ready. Tell me more. Where do we even begin?
Let's start with the Gandharvas.
Gandharvas. Okay, now you're going to have to explain that one.
Sure. So in Hindu mythology, Gandharvas are these celestial musicians.
Oh, interesting. Like heavenly musicians.
Exactly. They're known for their beauty, enchanting melodies, and connection to the senses.
So they're like the ultimate artist, creating music that just transports you.
You got it. And they're often associated with love, romance, and the power of music to evoke really deep emotions.
Now, this is starting to click for me. Remember how we talked about Mrigashira's link to Soma, who represents those intoxicating, pleasurable experiences? And now we have these Gandharvas who are all about music and sensory delight.
You're picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah.
Some interpretations say Mrigashira is actually ruled by the Gandharvas, or at least heavily influenced by their energy.
Wow, that's fascinating. So what does that actually mean for someone with Mrigashira strong in their birth chart?
It suggests they might naturally gravitate towards music, art, beauty in general.
The artsy types.
Yeah. They might be drawn to creative pursuits or just have this deep appreciation for aesthetic experiences.
They're the ones who get lost in a beautiful song or find inspiration in a stunning piece of art.
Exactly. They have this heightened sensitivity to the world, finding solace and joy in expressing themselves creatively.
It's like they're tuned into a different frequency, picking up on things others might miss.
And this sensitivity can also show up in their relationships.
Oh, interesting. How so?
They might seek out partners who share their artistic side, who can appreciate their depth of feeling.
They're looking for that soul connection, not just surface level stuff.
Exactly. It's about seeking a love that's soulful, passionate, and inspiring.
And not just romantic love, right?
You're right. Mrigashira natives often bring this artistic energy to all their relationships, trying to create beauty and harmony in their interactions.
So it's like they have this gift for making life more beautiful, enriching the lives of those around them.
You got it. And this Gandharva connection also has implications for their spiritual path.
Now that you mention it, I was just thinking about that. How does this energy shape their spiritual journey?
Well, the Gandharvas are celestial beings, connected to a higher realm.
Right. Makes sense.
This suggests that those with strong Mrigashira might naturally lean towards spirituality.
Oh, I see.
They might be drawn to meditation, mystical experiences, a deep connection with nature, things like that.
They're the ones who feel awe and wonder at the vastness of the universe.
Exactly. And their artistic nature can also be a path to spiritual exploration.
I can see that.
Expressing themselves through music, art, or dance can help them connect to something deeper within themselves.
Like their creativity is a form of prayer, a way to connect with something bigger.
Exactly.
Sure.
And this spiritual connection can also be seen in their desire to heal and help others.
That makes sense.
They might gravitate towards work or activities where they can make a positive impact on the world.
So it's not just about personal growth, it's about using their gifts to make a difference.
Right. That's where we see the real beauty of Mrigashira. It's this mix of creativity, spirituality, and this yearning for connection.
This is so fascinating. We've talked about the Gandharvas and how they influence those with strong Mrigashira placements. Are there any other spiritual concepts that we should explore?
There's one more idea I want to touch on. The concept of the celestial deer.
Celestial deer. Sounds pretty mystical.
It is. Remember how Mrigashira's symbol is the deer's head?
Yeah, of course.
In some interpretations, it's not just an earthly deer, but a celestial being, a guide from a higher realm.
Oh, I see what you mean. So it's like a divine messenger, a symbol of the connection between the earthly and the heavenly.
Exactly. This celestial deer is associated with purity, grace, and spiritual seeking. It represents that journey of the soul, searching for enlightenment and returning to its source.
That imagery is so beautiful. It adds a whole other layer of meaning to Mrigashira's energy.
It does.
Mm.
And it suggests that those with strong Mrigashira placements might have a special connection to the spiritual realm.
Interesting.
They might be more sensitive to energies, have prophetic dreams, or simply feel that pull towards a higher purpose.
Like they have this inner compass guiding them on their spiritual path.
Exactly. And this connection to the celestial deer can show up in their creativity too.
In what way?
They might be drawn to themes of nature, spirituality, or the search for meaning in their art, music, or writing.
It's like their creative work becomes a reflection of their own spiritual journey.
You got it. And this brings us back to that idea of legacy we talked about earlier.
Right. How Mrigashira is about creating something that lasts.
It's not just about material success, but about leaving behind something that inspires others.
So true. It's a reminder that our impact on the world matters, and the legacy we leave behind is important.
All right, speaking of legacy, we talked about how Mrigashira is associated with immortality.
Right.
What does that really mean practically?
Yeah, it's a big concept.
It's not about living forever in a physical body. It's about creating something that transcends time, that continues to inspire long after we're gone.
So it's about the lasting impact we have through our work, our actions, the wisdom we share.
Exactly. And for Mrigashira folks, this desire to leave a mark often drives them.
They want to make a difference, leave their imprint on the world.
They might dedicate themselves to a cause, pour their heart into their creative work, or simply strive to live a meaningful life.
That's a powerful thought that even small acts can have a ripple effect and create a lasting impact.
It is, and it speaks to the transformative power of Mrigashira.
It encourages us to go deeper, embrace our spiritual side, and create something truly meaningful.
Right. So we've explored Mrigashira's connection to the Gandharvas, that celestial deer, the idea of legacy and immortality. Anything else we should discuss before moving on?
It feels like we've covered a lot, but is there anything else you think is important to highlight?
There's one more connection I want to touch on. The link between Mrigashira and the element of water.
Water. We talked about Soma representing those life-giving waters, but I'm curious about how this element specifically shapes Mrigashira.
Right. Well, think about how water is often associated with emotions, intuition, the subconscious mind.
Okay, so there's a tie to our feelings and inner world. How does that play out for those with strong Mrigashira placements?
They often have really deep emotions and a strong connection to their gut feelings.
They're in touch with their intuition.
Yeah. They're sensitive people picking up on subtle cues in their environment. They often understand the human psyche really well, too.
So they're the ones who can sense what others are feeling, even if it's not said out loud.
Exactly. They have a gift for empathy and compassion, often drawn to helping people who are struggling emotionally.
I can see them being great friends, therapists, even spiritual advisors.
Exactly. And this sensitivity can also be seen in their creative work.
Oh, interesting. How so?
They might put their heart and soul into their art, music, writing, using it as a way to process their own emotions and connect with others.
Their art becomes like a window into their inner world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to healing.
Right. Mrigashira and healing are definitely linked.
These individuals often have a knack for healing, not just physical stuff, but emotional wounds too.
It's like they have this ability to see and understand people on a deep level, which can be incredibly healing.
They make people feel seen, heard, understood.
That's so important, especially in a world that can feel so harsh at times.
It is. But this water connection can also manifest in some tougher ways, too.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like, just as water can be nourishing, it can also be destructive.
Exactly.
So there's potential for some emotional ups and downs for people with strong Mrigashira placements.
There is, especially if they haven't learned how to manage their emotions well.
What could that look like?
They might be prone to mood swings, anxiety, or even getting swept away by their feelings.
So figuring out how to navigate those emotional waters is really important for them.
Absolutely. It's about finding healthy ways to express their emotions, setting boundaries, and having practices that help them stay grounded.
It's about finding that balance between embracing their emotional depth and learning how to ride those waves, so to speak.
Exactly. To help.
These are great insights. We've talked about the Gandharvas, that celestial deer, the idea of legacy, the water element, and how those all tie into Mrigashira. Is there anything else we should discuss?
There's one more connection I want to talk about, the relationship between Mrigashira and karma.
Karma. Now we're getting deep. We've mentioned karmic entanglements and past life stuff, but how does Mrigashira specifically shape a person's karmic journey?
Remember how Mrigashira is about transformation, often through challenging experiences?
I do, yeah.
This suggests that people with strong Mrigashira placements might have a more intense karmic path, full of lessons and opportunities for growth.
Like, they're here to face those challenges head on and really evolve through them.
That's it. They might encounter situations that bring up past life wounds, make them face their shadow side, or push them to break free from old patterns.
It sounds like their lives might be a bit more dramatic, a bit more intense.
It's possible. But karma isn't about punishment.
Right. It's about learning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for Mrigashira folks, these challenges can be catalysts for huge transformations. They come out stronger, wiser, more aligned with their purpose.
So even though it might not always be easy, it ultimately pushes them to a higher level of understanding.
That's the idea. And we all have karma, of course. But for those with strong Mrigashira placements, these lessons might be louder, more prominent in their lives.
It's a good reminder that life is a journey of growth, and everything we go through, even the tough stuff, is a chance to learn.
Well said. And that's Mrigashira, in a nutshell, embracing the journey, facing the challenges, and coming out transformed.
So we've explored the deeper, more spiritual side of Mrigashira. The Gandharvas, the celestial deer, legacy, water, karma. Anything else we should touch on before moving on?
One more thing. The concept of sacred space.
Sacred space. How does that relate to Mrigashira?
Well, remember, Mrigashira is linked to that search for knowledge, exploration, a connection to something bigger than ourselves.
I do, yeah.
It suggests that those with strong Mrigashira placements might have a deep appreciation for places that feel sacred.
You mean like those places that evoke awe and wonder, that sense of connection?
Exactly. Think of ancient temples, mystical forests, serene gardens, even a quiet corner in your home dedicated to spiritual practice.
It makes sense that people with Mrigashira placements would be drawn to those kinds of environments.
They're looking for that connection to something bigger, that peace and tranquility.
It's like they intuitively know that certain places can help them connect more deeply.
You got it. And these spaces might not always be traditional religious places.
Oh, interesting. What else might they be drawn to?
They might be drawn to natural wonders, like mountains, oceans, deserts, places where they can feel the raw power of nature.
It's about seeking that sense of transcendence, escaping the everyday world.
Exactly. And for those with strong Mrigashira, creating and nurturing sacred space can be a key part of their spiritual practice.
Like setting up an altar, spending time in nature, seeking out environments that support their well-being.
Exactly. And this appreciation for sacred space can also be seen in their work or creative pursuits.
How so?
They might be drawn to jobs that involve preserving nature, creating art that feels sacred, or just using their talents to bring beauty into the world.
So they're bringing a touch of the divine into everyday life.
Exactly. It's a reminder that sacred space isn't limited to certain locations.
It's about creating that atmosphere of reverence, intention, connection wherever we are.
Right. And for those with strong Mrigashira, this might come naturally, that deep longing to connect to the spiritual side of life.
So true. It's a reminder that we all have the ability to create sacred space, to find that connection to something bigger than ourselves. Exactly. This has been such a rich exploration of Mrigashira's deeper dimensions. We've talked about so much, the Gandharvas, the celestial deer, legacy, the water element, karma, sacred space.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
And we've only just begun to unravel the mysteries of this nakshatra. There's so much more to explore.
It's true. It's a fascinating part of Vedic astrology.
I can't wait to delve even deeper. But for now, let's shift gears and explore another concept in Vedic astrology, the idea of planetary periods known as dashas.
Dashas, that's a whole other world.
Are you ready to dive into the cyclical nature of time and how it affects us?
I am. I'm definitely intrigued.
Okay, great. Well, dashas are basically specific periods in a person's life, each ruled by a certain planet.
So each planet gets its time to shine, so to speak, influencing what happens during that phase.
Precisely. Each planetary dasha has its own unique energy and influence based on that planet.
Okay, I'm following.
For example, a Jupiter dasha might bring chances for growth, expansion, good fortune, while a Saturn dasha might involve challenges, discipline, those karmic lessons we talked about.
It's like different chapters in the story of our lives, each with a different theme.
Exactly. So how do we know which dasha we're in at any given time?
It's calculated based on the position of the moon in your birth chart.
Makes sense.
There are different dasha systems in Vedic astrology, but the most common one is the Vimshatari dasha.
Vimshatari dasha, that's a mouthful.
It is. It's a Sanskrit term that means 120 years.
120 years, wow, that's a long time.
This dasha system covers that entire span, and within it, there are different planetary periods of varying length.
So it's like this grand cycle, with each planet taking turns influencing our lives over specific periods.
Exactly. And each planetary dasha is then divided into smaller sub-periods called bhuktis, which are ruled by other planets.
Wow, that's getting pretty complex.
It does add another layer to things. But understanding the nature of these periods can offer a lot of insight.
It can help us understand the opportunities and challenges we might face at different points in our lives. Okay, I'm really curious now. So how do these dashes actually play out in real life? Can you give us some examples?
Sure. Let's say someone is entering a Jupiter dasha.
Okay, Jupiter, the planet of expansion. Good luck, wisdom. What might happen during that time?
This period often brings opportunities for growth, both personally and professionally.
So things tend to go well during a Jupiter dasha.
It's a time for higher education, exploring your spirituality, traveling, or just a time of abundance and joy.
Sounds pretty great.
It can be. The specifics will depend on the individual's birth chart and other influences, of course.
Of course, it's never that simple.
But generally, Jupiter's energy is positive and expansive, so we tend to see good things happening during this period.
Okay, that's Jupiter. Now, what about Saturn? What happens when someone enters a Saturn dasha?
Saturn is known as the taskmaster of the zodiac.
Uh-oh, that doesn't sound as fun as Jupiter.
It might not always be easy, but Saturn is associated with discipline, responsibility, karmic lessons, things like that.
So it's more about facing challenges and learning from them.
It can be a time of facing our limits, confronting fears, and building inner strength.
Like Saturn is pushing us to grow up, take responsibility.
Exactly. And while it might involve delays or setbacks, it ultimately helps us create a solid foundation for the future.
So even though it's not always fun, a Saturn dasha helps us become stronger and wiser.
Exactly. And remember, each planetary dasha, no matter which planet is ruling it, is a chance to learn and evolve.
It's all part of that cyclical dance of life with its ups and downs.
You got it.
This is so fascinating. I'm starting to see how understanding these dashas can give us a whole new perspective on life.
Right. It's like having a cosmic roadmap.
We can anticipate challenges and embrace opportunities.
Exactly. It's a reminder that life is a journey, and these planetary periods can help us understand our own path.
This has been incredible. I feel like I have so much more insight into how these dashas work.
And we've only scratched the surface. There's a lot more to explore about dashas and how they interact with our birth charts.
I can't wait to learn more. But for now, let's wrap up this part and move on to the final chapter of our Mrigashira deep dive.
Sounds good. We've got some great stuff ahead.
Okay, so we've gone deep into Mrigashira, its myths, its impact on relationships, careers, and even its more spiritual side.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
But I'm thinking now, what about practical advice for people with strong Mrigashira placements? Are there any specific things they can do, remedies or practices that can help them deal with life's challenges and use this nakshatra's energy in a positive way?
That's a really important question, and the answer is yes. There are definitely practices that can be helpful.
I'm all ears. Where should we start?
One of the best things for Mrigashira natives is to cultivate a strong connection with nature.
That makes a lot of sense. We talked about their love for sacred spaces, their link to water. Being in nature just seems like a natural fit.
It is.
Yeah.
Spending time in nature, walking in the woods, swimming in the ocean, or even just sitting under a tree can really help to ground their energy.
It's like nature provides that sense of balance and peace they need.
Exactly. And it's not just about observing. Doing things like gardening, hiking, or taking care of plants can be super therapeutic.
It connects them to the natural rhythms of life.
Exactly. And this connection to nature can also influence their diet.
Oh, interesting. What kind of diet would you recommend for Mrigashira folks?
Lots of fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grains, that sort of thing.
A healthy, balanced diet, basically.
Right. They should also be mindful of processed foods, sugar, and too much caffeine or alcohol. Those things can disrupt their sensitive system and make those emotional imbalances worse.
Makes sense. So eating for both physical and emotional well-being.
Exactly. Another important remedy is having a regular spiritual practice.
Again, this fits perfectly with their connection to those Gandharvas and the celestial deer. What kind of practices are we talking about?
Things like meditation, yoga, chanting mantras, or even just quiet contemplation can be really helpful. These practices calm the mind, connect them to their inner wisdom.
It's like creating that sacred space we talked about, but within themselves.
Exactly. And remember, it doesn't have to be rigid or formal. It's about finding what works for them and making it part of their everyday life.
Finding that spiritual path that truly speaks to them.
You got it. Any other suggestions?
Yeah, are there any other remedies or practices you'd recommend?
One more important practice is cultivating compassion and forgiveness, both for themselves and others.
That sounds like good advice for everyone. But why is it especially crucial for people with strong Mrigashira placements?
Remember how we talked about their intense karmic journey?
Yeah, those tough lessons they often face.
Holding on to anger or guilt can create blockages that prevent them from moving forward.
It's like carrying around all that heavy baggage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Forgiving themselves and others is essential for their well-being.
So it's about choosing a more loving and compassionate way of being.
That's it. And
Yeah.
there are different ways to do that: journaling, therapy, or even just consciously focusing on the positive.
It's about shifting their perspective, finding the lessons in those difficult experiences.
Exactly. By cultivating compassion, they create more harmony within themselves, allowing them to navigate life more smoothly.
These are all such great tips. I can see how these practices can help people with strong Mrigashira placements use their energy in a positive way and navigate their journey with more awareness.
Right. And remember, these are just suggestions. There are many other practices that can help. It's about exploring what resonates and making it a sustainable part of their life.
It's about empowering them to take control and create a life that aligns with their true purpose.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that we all have the power to shape our own destinies, to choose how we respond to challenges, and to create a life filled with meaning and joy.
Well said. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Mrigashira.
It's been quite the exploration.
We've covered so much: the myths, the impact on relationships and careers, practical tips, those deeper spiritual connections. I hope our listeners have a much better understanding of this nakshatra now.
Me too.
Oh,
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you and everyone listening.
likewise. And remember, those stars aren't just celestial objects. They're energies that reflect the patterns and potential within us. By understanding these energies, we can unlock our own potential and navigate life with more awareness and purpose.
That's a beautiful thought to end on.
Thank you for joining us on this cosmic adventure. Until next time, keep looking up at the stars and stay curious about the wonders of the universe.